Welcome back to the series. This is the second devlog I've released about the creation of my new game, a 2.5D underwater exploration adventure. So far, this week was the hardest by far, with hours of debugging, modeling, and debugging. Last week, we tackled player movement, map creation, and even had enough time to add in one large creature. The first three things I noticed when I opened the project back up this week was that I was getting really bored of this red cube. Second, the map looked really small, and I figured the player would get tired of swimming around the same small landscape very quickly. After all, I already had. Lastly, the water looks the same, no matter how deep you go, whereas in the real ocean, the water gets darker as you go deeper. Replicating the same effect in my game would help the player gauge their depth, but also help them distinguish between different areas of the map. The first task to complete was getting rid of the red cube. I had no experience modeling humans, so the player looked a little bit strange, but by editing the proportions and adding in colors, I was able to cover it up. I added in an armature rig and started animating. It took me about an hour, and it was easily the most complex animation I've done so far. My computer ended up running out of power just as I had finished, and I hadn't saved my animation. I stood up and plugged in my computer, opened up Blender, and redid the entire animation. This time, I ran into multiple issues that caused it to take almost double the time it had taken before. When I was done, I made sure to save the file. Once I swapped the red cube with the diver, the movement just didn't look right. I tried to ignore it at first, but eventually I realized that I had to switch it. And with that in mind, I deleted the script and started a new one. I switched to using RB.velocity instead of transform position and pointed the player in the direction of the velocity. The only issue was that now dashing didn't work. If I used RB.velocity, it would look like teleportation, whereas if I used RB.addForce, it would fling the player exactly 356 units into the sky. Eventually, I learned about force mode.velocity change, which ended up finally working. With my time running out already, I decided to make a new section of the map. I created some box volumes and set them to the areas that I want the post-processing to affect. After some testing and tweaking, I think the depth effect works really well with the environment. I had just enough time to add one singular fish, which will patrol a certain area. Next week, I'll add multiple schools of fish, and maybe even give the player a weapon. Anyway, I'm realizing now that I don't have a clue what to call this game, so if you've got an idea, please drop it in the comments for me. Thanks for watching till the end, and that's all for this week.